2026, we're back. And today, we're talking about 8 things you can do to jumpstart your career or help you land the next role in cyber. So today, we're talking about that with one special guest on today's episode.
This is episode 32 of the DTF Cyber Podcast. Damien is not here. I'm Troy.
And it's your boy, Fern. Let's go. Now today, we have a special guest. This person happens to be my second favorite Canadian. They happen to be a CISO at a company called CISO Global. And he only goes by his first name because if you know his last, he's probably in trouble. Let me introduce to you Mr. Gary Perkins.
Thank you so much, Fern. I'm happy to be a guest here. My name is Gary Perkins. I have the pleasure of serving as the CISO for CISO Global. And the 2 fastest ways to get my attention, you just covered one of them. One is threats to critical infrastructure. The second one is developing the next generation of cybersecurity talent. So very, very, very happy to help people get a leg up.
Okay. My first question to you is off the cuff, because whenever you go places, you have to say you're a CISO at CISO Global.
Yes.
So I would imagine most people don't know. They're like, wait, did this guy just say he has 2 jobs?
Yeah. Or they think isn't that cute? He's a one-person organization. Let me assure you we're not. We got hundreds of employees, hundreds of customers.
Okay.
But what does CISO stand for? That's one of the most common ones we get. Or I get greeted as if I'm from Cisco, which that's fascinating too. But CISO is Chief Information Scapegoat Officer. No, I'm kidding. It's Chief Information Security Officer. We just feel like the scapegoats.
Yeah, because that's the whole point of the job, right? If they don't have someone to blame, who do they blame? Not me, right? Yeah. I actually read that's kind of how the CISO role came to be.
We're just keeping this between us, right? It's it's like NHL coaches hired to be fired.
Or when they have the different coaches, like the offensive line, defensive line, instead of going after the head coach, who do they blame? They blame the person that's responsible just for a certain part of the team.
Now, can you imagine that there's people that actually want this role? Most people, the closer they get to it, the less they want it. Those are the smart people. But some of us are suckers for punishment.
You know, one of the things, Fern, I think is that this role is evolving. You know, and a few years ago, I would say almost 100% of the time, Gary is spot on that if there was a breach or a major incident, the CISO is the first one to be out the door. But I want to call on my friend Tim Brown, right, at SolarWinds. What an example of how to handle a breach and partner with his CEO and partner with, the local FBI and the media to really turn this breach and this ideology on its head, where the CISO can be your most valuable asset through a breach. Tim showed up with his CEO at every press conference and, was very transparent about the Russian malware that was found in their software. And, they came through that breach and were stronger. And so I really think it's how a company reacts that's going to dictate how they succeed in coming through that public embarrassment. Now, I know we have breach fatigue where we're hearing things in the news every day. So it's not uncommon for a company today to have a data incident or a breach. But I think CISOs are handling it a lot better, and companies are more amenable to working with the current team. Now, I want to also call out, this was not a breach, but the CrowdStrike incident. When they had their outage internationally, George Kurtz was on CNBC the next morning, and they had their teams just full court press giving, Falcon Flex credits and getting out there to help, fix things for their customers. And that response and that transparency really helped CrowdStrike not lose very many customers through that incident. And I think the same thing happens in a breach and with a CISO. I think that we've seen that very much evolve to where you can stay on after something major. And now it's really a badge of honor. Before, and Gary, you can give me your thoughts, but before, if you were a CISO that had lived through a ransomware, it might be tough getting a new job. Now it's something that's looked for. You have grace under pressure. You've been there, you've done that, and you understand what happens during a major incident. I think that's more now a resume addition than it is a detraction.
Yep, you're right. Previously, it was 1 breach, 2 breach. You don't get to see the 3rd breach. But I want to address a couple of things you said, and one is with CrowdStrike getting out in front of it. Absolutely. You don't want somebody doing that on your behalf. It has to be somebody who represents the company. But when you started talking about SolarWinds, it made me think back to what was one of the earliest examples of this where a company made themselves stronger out the other end of a breach? RSA. Do you remember that? Go back there. They were, breached into oblivion, and their marketing team should win an award, right? Because they basically figured out how to monetize this and sell it back to customers. Because we've been through this breach situation, we can help prevent, detect, and respond to yours.
I'm not sure when that happened. Was that before I was born, or?
Oh, it might be, man. It might be. This was 2 jobs ago. I was at TELUS at the time.
Okay.
But you want to go back and look at that one. It was fascinating, because think about this. My short version of this, and people will probably, go and try to correct me. But imagine if they didn't want to go after the company, the target company directly, and instead they compromise the security company to get in. That's fascinating, because to me, I would have figured if you're a security company and you get compromised, that's kind of the end of you. But to Troy's point, no, you can, as long as you handle it appropriately, you can flourish out the other side.
But doesn't it just boil it down to like third-party risk? You just happen to be a third party that lands in the security bucket. So, I mean, it's essentially like one of the earlier third-party risk options or scenarios.
Except again, it's one thing if you're an HVAC supplier. This is when you're a security company. RSA at the time was the one providing us the secure ID tokens, right? The ones that in the middle of the night when you have a breach, you drag your ass out of a bed, or some kind of attack or incident, something you have to investigate, drag your ass out of bed, and you're like looking at the token to try to get the glint off your monitor to be able to log into your VPN to go and investigate this thing. I've seen it making the rounds recently on LinkedIn as like some kind of ancient artifact. It's like, yeah, guys, that's because back in 2003 or prior, you should have had MFA. Why the hell are we still talking about having MFA now?
We got to get to these 8 things. So, top 1. I don't even know if it's top. We'll just say the number 1 on my list here is to build one public red team project every quarter. So you essentially do this 4 times a year. And the idea is by building these projects, you're going to pick a target, exploit it, write it up in a conversation, and then share that.
So legally, I believe, was the most important term there, because we don't want people just, being irresponsible. One of the things we have always recommended, because we want security professionals to be well-rounded, we want them to have experience with a bunch of different hardware, a bunch of different operating systems. If the only one you've ever worked with is Windows, you might be of limited value. So you want to have your own home lab. And what's the best feature of your home lab? No connectivity to the internet, so that later Officer Friendly isn't at your door asking why you made a typo on an IP address and suddenly you're attacking an actual company out there. So yes, have a lab or have authorization or do one of the hack the box or similar, but stay on the good side.
Or find a friend or find a small business owner, right? Because a lot of times small businesses don't have what they need to be, we'll say, resilient. So
just have permission, have consent, have it written too, because Troy, the guys that went and did that pen test and then found themselves arrested and served a sentence
at the courthouse.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That should have been the first sign, right?
But do this a few times a year, maybe at least once, and then specifically write it up and put it on GitHub. Mm-hmm. So that way there are people out there that can look and search, and when they see your name with a number of articles posted consistently, and people find that useful or valuable, or here's even this, if the hiring manager is looking for a certain and specific skill and they go to GitHub, right, and they start looking around and your name pops up a couple times, like, do you think they're going to look for a resume that has that, or are they going to look for...
That's exactly what I heard. I heard they're more likely to go to GitHub and look for what is the case rather than what should be the case or what you're claiming. I'm actually honestly surprised that even resumes are even a thing in 2026, because it really should all be posted on LinkedIn, and then at least it's kind of publicly vetted. I know I'm going to get some comments for that one. But you can't lie as badly on your LinkedIn resume. So, but GitHub, I understand. I should probably mature my own GitHub.
Well, I'll tell you this: at least you have one.
Yeah.
I have none. I've never actually posted anything on GitHub. I don't believe I even have an account. I haven't had a need for it. Right? Maybe that'll change in the future. Maybe that's just speaks to the fact that I am not we'll say like practitioner, right?
I think the common misconception though is that only coders or developers need a GitHub account. So if you're early or getting into your IT or even your security career and you don't have a GitHub page, run over there right now. We'll wait right here while you go and sign up for No, we're not going to wait. Go get yourself a GitHub account.
Yes, I'll probably have one before the end of the week.
Nice.
So, okay, so that's the first topic. It's a little bit advanced. It requires you to make a couple phone calls and get some permissions, right? So just to be clear, do not do this for fun.
Well, do it for fun.
Yeah,
absolutely enjoy it. But
when you're looking at something or an IP address, that's if it's not your own, get explicit instructions from the person that owns it and get it in writing. Because if you don't have it in writing, it's like if you don't have a picture, it didn't happen. If you didn't get the contract and you don't have it in writing, there's
an authorized person is the key, because these other people thought that they actually had permission. It was signed just by the wrong person. That person did not have authority to do it. Your best bet, honestly, when I was growing up, it was we didn't have VMs the way you do nowadays. So I just had a whole bunch of computers that I'd experiment with, connected all in to a switch or router that was not connected to the internet. That way, there's no oops, right?
Okay.
Because, some people get offended even if you do a light port scan. Just don't do it. Prevent that from happening. Because nowadays, even with a cheap computer, like a throwaway laptop that you were going to use or a Raspberry Pi or something like that, you can set up some devices to play with. And then if you have the resources, set up a few VMs. And one of the things you can do is intentionally install a distro or like an OS that is known to be not secure, or some of the vulnerable images, and then play with those, experiment with those. And probably you're going to be a bit of a packet warrior or script kiddie at first, and then you're going to mature your understanding over time.
Okay. I like that. I guess I would have never thought about that. But yes, if you can't connect to the internet, what are you really damaging outside?
And make sure you get wired and Wi-Fi. The point is just making it so that you can't accidentally, like you can't make a mistake and oops, I accidentally scanned this major retailer's main web presence.
So I like that. So get permission, do it on a internet or a non-connected device, or just do a VM on a computer that's not connected to the internet. Simple as that, right? I don't think anyone's gonna go buy a few laptops and put them up in their house. They'll probably just run a few VMs.
That's nowadays, you bet.
Okay, so number 2, and this one gets interesting because it essentially goes into another red team type of thing where you master a new attack toolchain, right? So we'll say this. And so since Demon's not here, he helped us and wrote a few things, right? So his examples were a Flipper Zero with bad USB, or Covenant and a Silver C2, Bloodhound Sharp, and PowerView. And to be 100% honest, I have no idea what I just read.
Okay, but the Flipper Zero, because that's hit mainstream media. And did you see the inauguration where they banned Flipper Zero? I can kind of start to understand that one there, but they also banned Raspberry Pis.
Why would someone actually care about a Flipper Zero on a cruise?
That's a lot of reasons.
Oh yeah, we're just Troy and I are just thinking of all the different ways that with permission from the appropriate people, that we could have lots of fun on a cruise ship.
Was you sit next to a guy who has an unlimited drink card.
Yeah.
Take your Flipper Zero, just sit a little too close, clone that card, and then for the rest of the cruise, I drink what I want.
You realize that this isn't even stuff out of the movies anymore. If you're in a elevator with a bunch of people, you have to be in closer proximity than you would probably be otherwise. And with the appropriately powered device, you can pull a significant amount of information from just the people around you.
Yeah. Or the first thing that I thought of, 'cause when I was thinking like, well, what would you do? Like if you saw someone with nice jewelry, right? Or a nice watch or a nice, we'll just say accessory, right? You just got to figure out what room they're in. Somehow you're by their room or you get access to their key card to their room. You just go back at a later date, right? Or a later time when you know they're not in their room.
Have you always thought like a criminal, or is this more of a new thing?
I think I am a little bit paranoid. So I think for myself, like, okay, if I was in the situation as the victim, what would I want to do to not be the victim?
Exactly. So you're starting to think about how can I better protect myself, right? And that's that's what we would like to see in some of these new up and comers into the field. It's like, don't assume something is always going to be used in the way that it's intended. That's a big one. That's like a differentiator, whether you're going to be work out well in many areas of security. And then, use it for good. Consider the threat model, the different risks and what the likelihood and things is. I mean, obviously for now, you've got to figure out how are you going to get it off the ship? The Louvre jewels that you've just stolen. Is it going to be a chopper? Because you're kind of limited, man.
Well, my first thought is you get thrown off the side of the boat with another device that has a GPS on it.
Okay, another session. Totally another session. Random
thoughts up, Fern. Okay, so the whole idea with that second topic was is to build your arsenal of tools, like essentially your bat belt, right? Your security bat belt, to where depending on what you're doing, you have knowledge and prior exposure to some of these tools. So that way, one, you can think of, in my case, how would you defend against it? Or two, you have the exposure and experience to be aware of maybe some of the thought process that people have when they're looking to do, harm. But then also you essentially build your skills on the red teaming.
Yeah, I'm going to sum it up like this, and happy to have Troy debate this. But I think that you are limited in your ability as a blue team, as the defenders, if you've never orchestrated an attack.
100%.
Right? So if you have never caused an attack, and your job is to defend against it, that's where we run into some situations where they're looking through their textbook and say, this isn't the way that it's supposed to happen. And I'm looking at it like, they're criminals.
Yeah.
They're criminals. There's nothing that guides whether they have to do it in a particular way. And it sure as hell is not going to fit what you were taught in school of this step, then this step, then this step.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, generative AI is kind of blurring that line a little bit too, because when you interview somebody, you talk to somebody, they may have some experience with it, but it wasn't really self-driven. It was more of, I just asked ChatGPT for a cheat sheet for this interview. You really need to struggle. The struggle is so important. Setting up a router that doesn't route by accident, you figure out why, you have to troubleshoot it. You have to get down into why this didn't work. Same thing with a hack. You have a multiple step, the reconnaissance to the initial, to this on your own lab again, but you have to realize why things work and why they don't work to be successful in this industry. And just asking ChatGPT to fix all your problems is not helping you learn. So it's a great tool. I love it. I use it every day, but at the same time, don't rely on it so much that you don't actually learn the material or the industry.
Yeah, you're making me think, how is interviewing and hiring going to be different going forward? Because we can't trust that the person that's on video is even who they say they are. So they've got to be in person. Then you can't really trust that they didn't just, pick this all up from reading. You're going to have more practical or just better interview questions to get that out of them.
You have to go into the office, and then while they're there, they're like, "Oh, by the way, we work from the office 5 days a week." It wasn't a problem for you to get here, right?
Switch. Yeah, there you go.
You drove here for the interview. You might as well work here.
So the bottom line is, we want the people that are entering the industry to have experience with different, either different attack methods, different tools, both from a blue and red team perspective.
Yeah, because you can't necessarily be a food critic if you don't know how to cook.
Learn the OSI model. I think that is the foundations of a great career. Learning the OSI model, TCP/IP, understanding basic networking. I think that a lot of people skip that step.
It's literally one of the items on my thing is like learn networking, because nowadays people are graduating with cybersecurity degrees and they don't know the difference between UDP and TCP. And if you don't know the difference from that between them, I don't think you're a cybersecurity professional, or at least not in many of the different roles that we have. There's some fundamental knowledge.
Gary, I could tell you a UDP joke, but you may not get it.
Yeah, UDP joke, right? It's like, you'll think you know where I'm going with this one, but you've heard there's 1-0 types of people in this world: those who have heard this joke and those who hate it, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Those who haven't heard the joke and those who hate it. Like, yeah, like we love to nerd out with the jokes.
I'm just pretending I don't understand any of this stuff because I don't want to be classified as a nerd.
You're like an honorary nerd.
Yeah, honorary.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to the third topic, right? This one's actually pretty straightforward. It's most likely not a very large time commitment.
Okay, cool. We like those.
And that is just to contribute to some form of open source security project. Mm-hmm. And I like this for two reasons. It gets you the experience of contributing, like professionally and publicly. But while you contribute, you also get to meet other people doing it, right? So we always talk about networking as an important part of anyone's cyber career. You have to know people, right? You mentioned that earlier even. So by contributing to an open source project, you're not only showing off and tooting your own horn in a good way, by showing people what you're capable of doing, you now have record of that. You can now point to that on like a CV, for example, during an interview. And the people that you meet along the way can become your friends. And then you and these new friends that you found through this open source project, you now have a network connection point that could be on the other side of the US. So if you're looking for a role, you can go to your friend that you would have met through this project, or someone you networked with, say, hey, I'm looking for a role. Are you aware of anything? So who better to know about a security role than someone already in security?
Yeah, honestly, this is critical. I've been watching all the posts on LinkedIn and elsewhere that the jobs and hiring market appears like it's fundamentally broken. And it seems like the last way you're going to get a job is seeing a job posted on one of the boards and applying off the street. Mm-hmm. Right. So just doubling down and forcing that network is key. And no, we're not talking about routers and switches at this point. We're talking about meeting and getting to know people.
Can we talk about that for a second? I just want to throw a stone in the lake here, because the ATS system is absolutely broken.
Oh, man.
The automated systems that are using AI to find our next candidates, they are missing so many things. HR is broken. ATS is broken. You've got AI competing with AI trying to get jobs. You got candidates who are using AI to optimize their resume to match the ATS system. You got HR managers using optimization to make their ATS have the perfect description of the job. And it's a arms race, and you're never going to get the right candidate. We need to throw away the automated systems. And I'm really glad for the regulations that are asking states like California and New York that are saying, you're not going to use automated systems. Or if you do, you have to let the candidate know that you're using those systems.
I like that. I like that you have to tell them, because you're exactly right. We have applicants that are using AI to generate their resume off of an AI post, and then AI systems reviewing them. You're not going to find the best candidates this way.
No. Here's maybe not necessarily the best candidate, but here's a good way for people to actually get looked at, is to have someone do an internal referral, right? Because like you said, you're not going to just like walk off the street and get it, right? You might be able to, but at least from what I've seen, if you know someone that works at a company that works in the same department and they submitted a recommendation or an internal referral for you, it's like super a leg up, because now there's 100 applicants, right? Or 200 or 300, however many there are. Maybe a lot of them are fake. Maybe a lot of them are bots, right? That's going to require someone to look through. Now, here's a perfect example. If you were hungry, Gary, and you said, hey, I want to go get some lunch. Where should I go? And I told you to go right down the street here to my favorite barbecue place. You'd probably go. Now, if I
It's
told
because
you,
you put some skin in the game, right? The referral, likelihood to recommend, and you're staking your own reputation on it, because when I go down there and I hate it, then
well, that's a whole other thing. But if I were to, if I told you somewhere to go, right? Now, if I told you somewhere not to go, would you still go?
Oh, that's interesting. I probably wouldn't, because there's so many other places.
Exactly.
Are you talking about blacklisting candidates now? Because this is getting way more interesting.
No. What I'm saying is the same thought process you have of why you wouldn't go to a place that I tell you not to go to is the same reason why you would, right? Because I've already given like this validation that it's good or this confirmation that it's bad, right? And the same way works for a resume for a hiring manager when they say, okay, one, make sure the person that's referring you is respected. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you can check that, but
you know what I learned? I learned the hard way. Make sure the person that you would want a duplicate of that person, the person that's referring them, if they're excellent in their role, then great. But if they're not, don't take that recommendation.
Okay.
But no, it makes their lives easier, right? So they've got this person vouching for them. Hey, in some companies, they may even be making a few bucks on it too, right?
Yeah, usually. Mm-hmm. And that's another incentive for people to want to do it for you. Is say, hey, I don't know if you get paid for this, but I'm looking to apply. If there's a benefit for you to refer me, let me know and I'll hold off on my application.
And do your research on the organization as well, right? In addition to the people that you know there, like I know that if somebody was referring me, I would want to make them look good too.
Yeah, 100%.
And not just walk in there entitled, like, it's my job to lose or something like that.
I come from highly regarded people.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to the third one, right? Because it kind of got a little bit off track. But this open source security project. So when it comes to your resume and having this experience and exposure, because now you're reaching out to people that you know to get an internal referral, the best thing you can have is a way to point to somewhere, where you've had this experience and exposure to point at that this is what I've done.
And I would say over time, right? So those incremental regular contributions, because it would look pretty insincere, disingenuous if it was, I know I'm going to need a job in 2 weeks, so I'm just going to post 100 times in the next 2 weeks. It's like you said with the networking, do it before you need it.
Yeah, so that when you need it, it's there, right? I've seen so much where people are completely silent, nowhere to be found. The minute they need a job, they're on LinkedIn every single day. The minute they get a job, back off, right? Very interesting, but yeah, that's a topic for another day. So contribute to open source projects, because getting that exposure to new contacts is important, one, but also having a repository that you can point to later through some sort of resume or CV documentation is also a strong selling point, right? So Troy, anything that you think we missed on that one?
Not at all, but I think just to be clear, I think that no matter what your passion is in cybersecurity, whether you're blue team or red team or some other, SIM engineer, there is definitely an open source project that you could become a part of and contribute to and learn from. So don't just pigeonhole yourself into a single, domain. Look at what's around you and what you're passionate about, and line yourself up with an open source project and contribute to it. You'll find new friends and networking. It's a way to network, as well as learning new information, and you're actually contributing, putting your name out there. So it ticks a lot of boxes for your resume.
Nice. Okay. Number 4. So we'll be halfway through the list now. This one's actually interesting because it says, thanks to Damien, a weekly hunt in a real environment. So what this actually requires is, one, permission, just like the first topic, right, that we talked about, where you do a project every quarter, right, or reach out to people, or get their permission, right? If you're already working at an organization, and we'll say maybe you're not even on the security team, you could be on the networking team, right? You could be on the help desk team, right? 1, shows initiative. 2, gets you experience and exposure. 3, gets you the ability to show it later on your next hunt for a job. So if you're working at a company right now, and I met someone at this event that works at one of the institutions out here, and he was telling me that he's trying to break into cyber. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And he was asking, we talked about the podcast. And I said, actually, for the following episode, we're talking about things that people can do to kind of help them, right? So I think what he does now is he is like on the IT help desk, but he does a lot of like technician work. So if someone's monitor dies or monitor breaks, he replaces it, right? So essentially kind of like smart hands on site, technical, has a degree, but is not in security.
Right? Super common scenario, right?
Yeah. So this is a perfect example of where you could go to the security team, not even on the security, and say, hey, maybe the manager say, hey, I'm looking to do something. I'm looking for a potential purple team project. I want to be able to contribute. Are there any CTFs that are, on this team, or CTFs that we can do, that I can do proactively to get this experience? So one, it sets you apart internally, it gets you the experience and the exposure, and then really just has it where you can, again, point back to something where it becomes a story for an interview process.
It's also experience, because I think that a lot of folks, when they're applying, they understate their security experience. Even in some of these other positions, like even if they're in retail, I ask them questions like, oh, did you let people make unauthorized credit card transactions? No, you didn't. Did you regularly invite or allow unauthorized people into the back room? No, these are all like, semi-security functions. I can just imagine this, though, as soon as somebody from the help desk walks up to the network team and says, can I have like root or enable level access to go and look in your production environment? They're like, hello, threat actor. Or the next person is going to cause a problem. But if they are progressive and resourceful, creative, I'm sure that they can come up with a safe way to do it. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, what if they gathered like a 10 gig packet capture or something like that, and then just offline and let them have it? Because imagine this, what if they actually found something? What if they found something that hadn't otherwise been detected?
Yeah.
And often it is like looking for a needle in a stack of needles. It's really difficult. So if you were able to identify somebody who's keenly good at this, plus it's giving them some experience to figure out what parts of security am I interested in, right? So,
or the most important part you forgot, free labor.
Yep.
Right?
Because I really advocate this approach. It's like, you don't know if you don't ask, but if you're sitting there on the either help desk or IT job and you go to your manager and say, hey, if it's okay with you, can I spend every second Friday afternoon with the security team and like job shadowing and that kind of thing? I would like to think they'd say yes, right?
100%. I think,
unless they're already not performing, right?
Yeah, but one of the things that Damien has said in a previous episode is he actually loves when his people leave. In a good way, because it's like he's helped build them, and he's helped
those people that go on to be successful elsewhere is one of like the undocumented signs of success. As you say, it's like everybody thinks when they leave that's a bad thing. It's not true. If you've prepared them for that role and had a hand in that, and they go off to be successful elsewhere, fantastic. Do more of that, and then you're providing a new opportunity for somebody else to be successful, right?
Yeah, but the whole idea is if you're on the network team or in the help desk team, and they help build your
talent pool. It's like career progression.
Yeah. Career pipeline, right? Or talent pipeline rather. So that's just another benefit of being able to do something like this, where you're showing interest, you're showing the curiosity, you're going to this other, security team, obviously with the right intent. Like, I think you said insider threat is, first thing that goes off, but I think a lot of people can really just show up and say, hey, I'm looking at doing this. I don't know if it's available, but I love to find an opportunity. And I'll tell you a story real quick is, Kim Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had him in here for a podcast almost a year ago, right? Before I was doing this with Troy and Damien, it was a one-on-one type thing. And I had met him at an event, and he said, if you want to talk, reach out, right? Yeah, I'll give anyone 20 minutes of my time, is what he had said.
He hasn't responded to me, man.
He hasn't? Oh, well, I'm on the opposite side. So he was presenting at an event, and I reached out to him, and I said, hey, like, would you be interested in something? And he goes, he lives like an hour and a half away. So he drove all the way down here from like Surprise or something like that. And we spoke, and I asked him about, what made him say yes, because nobody helped me get him to show up. A lot of people have had help along the way, right? Some people say, hey, like, yes, good to go. You should do it, right? with Kim, he was either second or third person that came in here. I think he was the third actually. And the people that I knew didn't really know him very well. So it was kind of all on my own. And he did it. And I asked him, I said, like, why did you do it? And he goes, when we first met at the event, it was actually Cactus Con.
Mm.
He was on the panel like 2 years ago. And he said, anyone can reach out to me. You get my time, right? And so I did. And I actually asked him, I said, hey, would you do this? So I think he told me, and I have to go back because memory's probably slipping now, but there's probably 60 people that added him on LinkedIn.
Mm.
And out of all those people, only one person asked him for his time.
Mm.
And that was me. So he's like, of course, right? So that's the other thing too, is I think a lot of people don't understand how much or how few people actually ask for help.
Oh, and then follow through. That's the real differentiator. When somebody comes forward and says, see, Troy's experienced this, I bet as well. I wonder if your experience has been the same as mine, is I offer to help. Somebody says, yes, I'd like your help. And then that's the last you ever see of them, because you give them something to do and then suddenly they disappear. So the people who follow through and take initiative and follow up, they really are the exception. And guess what? Those are the people I'm most interested in.
You have people that reach out or talk to you at a networking event and say, love to, pick your brain about how I can get my foot in the door over here, over there. And then they're a ghost. Like, you give them your number, you give them your time. And listen, our time is valuable. Where there's just such a limit on how much we can do in a day. And for us to say, yeah, we'll take, half an hour with you and give you some great advice on how to progress in the industry. And then you just ghost us or set up an appointment and don't show. I've had that happen.
Yeah. Face it, Troy, you're going to have to work on being less intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Troy's
I'm a kid. That's my job.
Troy's pretty smart. So whenever I had to talk to him, like, I feel bad. Like, oh man, like I'm definitely not the smartest person in the room.
That might be an
in
aspect. And that's what I'm kind of suggesting. That's what I'm hinting at, is that it might not be that they just don't want to do it or can't be bothered. It might be that they feel bad about, infringing on your time. But that's why I differentiate cyber. I throw down the challenge. Show me another industry. I want another industry that volunteers their own time at the degree that we do to help other people get in.
Yeah, it's probably not really there, because most of the time, the way I look at it is people in cyber have a common goal, which is protecting their businesses, protecting the people, right? Protecting organizations. CIOs, CTOs, CFOs have one real incentive, which is like grow their business, right? And it's a competitive landscape. If you're a CIO telling another CIO how you did something, and so they, especially if they're a competitor, isn't necessarily in your best interest.
I don't see mechanics doing it. I don't see armored car guards doing it.
Gary, one thing I think that we all know but don't think about is that we have a lot of veterans and a lot of former police officers in cybersecurity, people transitioning from the service, diplomatic service like myself. I was a police officer, IT forensics. And I think that this is a mission, that cyber is more of a mission than a job. And you have this passion and it's mission driven. So I guess from my perspective, I see a lot of people continuing what they did in the military by just helping those young recruits, be successful. I think that's a good corollary to what we see in cyber, and it might come from the pedigree of folks we have in this industry.
Yeah, and let's just remind ourselves that's an excellent career transition as well, to see folks that have military or police background go into cyber, because why? They already have they think the right way. Yeah,
it reminds me of Simon Sinek's book. It's called Leaders Eat Last, and what he talks about is like the history of people in the military. And like their thought process of where if someone is hurt on the battlefield, people will go out to save them. And I believe what he said in the book was he had interviewed someone, like, why did you risk your life? And the person's response was, I did it because if it was me, I know they would have done the same thing. And I think that's a lot of like what people in cyber look at is like, if it was me that was dealing with a breach, right? Or we don't say breach around here, by the way. If it was me dealing with an incident.
I see it all the time, just so you know, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know. Damien always says that, so we just never say it now. But if I was dealing with an incident, right? I know I could count on other people to come help. I could reach out to a certain amount of people if I was like a CISO, right? And I think that's important because people know that they can rely on others, that they can be relied upon, or they can be present and available in any situation. But then also, if someone needs them, they're willing to help.
Yeah, it absolutely is a community for sure.
Yeah. So I think you're right. I don't know if there's anyone else that really fits into like that sort of description of where everyone is out to help each other. But
well, and I'll take it one step further and a little more controversy. Because when you go to these events, right? The a-holes don't attend, they stay at home. So it's only the engaged people that come out and willing to participate and contribute.
Great point, Gary. And I want to just take a minute to throw a dart here and just say that I have a pretty strict no assholes policy, especially at work. You know, you see companies that have this toxic employee who just believes they can do no wrong, that they have all of the legacy secrets and they can't be fired. And that is such a toxic environment for other employees who, you know, feel like, well, this guy can do whatever he wants in a negative way and not get punished. Even he can mess up, even he can do nefarious things and not be punished.
Yeah.
And companies are like, we can't fire him because we don't know what he knows or we can't recover. I'm talking to the leaders right now. You've got to pull that Band-Aid off. Do it now, because what's going to happen is you're going to have to pull that Band-Aid off when something really serious happens, and you're going to be in the same quagmire that you think you're going to be in. Manage it now while it's on your terms.
They say the culture at your organization is the worst behavior that you're willing to tolerate, right? I remember back in the industry, like this is probably 20 years ago, where we almost expected people's technical skills and abilities to be inversely correlated with their administrative and their ability, their bed manner, right, and ability to communicate with other employees. But you can't tolerate that anymore.
Now I'm speaking to that engineer who might be in that situation, or you might suspect that you're the person I'm talking about. You need to learn how to be a team player and change your perspective and think about your fellow employees, because if you're the person who's making everybody's day suck, then I hope your boss has you on a short leash and a short time frame.
Oh, let's not miss an opportunity to go back to Fern's example. It's like when you're in trouble, these are the people you're going to count on to come and help you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You want to have a good team, right? Okay. Yeah, I can't say I've ever worked at a place that had like really bad culture. Usually, I think everyone's been really good. Right?
Sometimes within a large organization that you have many cultures, like there's different teams or silos and that kind of thing. So it's not uncommon to come across some of these environments that are less than positive to work for.
Okay. No, I think what Troy's spot on though. I have heard stories, from other people where they've left companies because of either the culture or toxicity within the team, as in like, we'll say a bad apple, right? So I think it's important to call out. But like Troy said, speaking to the leaders, just got to get them out of there. Get them out of there.
What they say, one bad apple, right?
Yeah, one bad apple ruins the bunch. And I've seen it in my fridge. Let's see here. So, man, I think we're moving kind of slow today, but it'll be a long episode, so that's fine. Number 5, just learn to script on your own tools, right? I've never scripted, right? So I would probably qualify as a script kiddie. I think is the actual phrase that people would say for me. But this is interesting because if you write a useful tool in either Python or Go every couple months, so essentially 6 a year is what Damien had for us, whether it's a custom scanner, a token sprayer, or report generator, that's where you get the money. Because when you have the ability to go out and actually do these things or build these tools without having to vibe your way to the outcome, and you can actually explain your thought process and why you do what you do, and how maybe we'll even add in, like sprinkle in, you've taken like secure by design fundamentals into your scripting.
I think we're combining a few different things here, but what I would say is, first, there's a big difference between scripters and real developers or coders, right?
Okay.
So let's separate that.
Yeah.
I'm not the developer. Don't come to me to code your app. However, I do believe in efficiency. Mm-hmm. And if you're sitting there manually doing the same thing over and over, you're crazy. Most of us have a rule that it's like, if I have to do it more than twice, I'm going to automate it or I'm going to script it, right? And
Yeah.
if you think about it at the simplest level, and I'm probably going to draw some ire for this one too. It's like scripting is just like it's a series of commands, right? So if you wanted to automate the same kinds of things when you log in, like when you log into Linux or something like that, and you want to have the same screens pop up or have things work in a certain way, then you can script it. So I would follow that principle of if I have to do it more than once or twice, then I'm going to script it.
Yeah.
What we're getting at here is then taking it beyond that and having something's useful and adding some value. And actually, this is where you can start to populate your GitHub page, if you like, with you've maybe not come up with something that has never been done before, but that's not the definition of innovation. Innovation is meeting some kind of demand, right? And so if you can come up with a different way to do something that is better or easier, then great, share that around. And it speaks volumes about who you are as a person and how you work as a professional on things like your resume. And you've got these skills that people are going to be looking for. Go wouldn't be my go-to. I'm a little old school. Troy's going to like groan when I mention Perl. But I don't know, I've come along a little Python, and Bash.
I was going to say my first scripts were in batch files, calling batch files. It doesn't matter what you're using as long as it's helping you learn the systems and how to automate things. I think it's so important. But now we have people just asking ChatGPT, can you write me a script to help me do X, Y, or Z? That's not really scripting. But I will say my 11-year-old daughter creates Roblox games with Claude, and she has thousands and thousands of lines of code, and she knows how to troubleshoot it. So I'm asking myself, maybe it does help her understand code to know how to use Claude as a tool to get what she wants, but then also being able to understand how to go back and troubleshoot something. So I don't know. I'm on the fence here.
Positive kind of feedback. I saw that in some of the early like code.org type games because people are getting right away. They're getting that feedback, that instant gratification. But then as you get into Minecraft, I thought that was fantastic when I'm looking at Minecraft and you start to see the ability to code within that application and build basically computers. And everybody thinks you're just playing around with blocks and chickens and stuff, but no, it can go well beyond that. So I love seeing that. Now, not everybody's going to be a scripter or a coder, but I'd hate to see somebody that is doing the same things repetitively without looking at smarter ways to work.
Yeah. Like I've never done scripting before.
We're going to change that too, man.
Yeah, we should, because I gotta level up. But the relatable thing that I think of is if you're married and you're 2 feet taller than your spouse and you drive the same car. Right? Now, I've hopped in my car where the seat's like all the way forward and it's like I can't even get in, right? Which is annoying.
I call that last night.
So, but when my wife gets in the car, she has to, pull it forward, right? Now, luckily, cars now have it where you can press a button for a driver profile, right? So I think of it like if you were to share a car with someone and every time you hopped in, you had to redo your settings, that's a huge waste of time. But if you were able to, we'll say in this case, quote, script it where you can press a button, now you just press the button and you get in right away. So it's very much along the same lines of why would you keep doing the same thing over and over when you can just press a button and have it done for you, right? So very similar, but maybe that's just like the real world version of where scripting kind of comes in.
Well, if you're asking that question, like why am I having to do this thing manually? Yeah, you should ask yourself, is there a way to automate it? So I guess the takeaway from this one for me is if you're getting into this field, and sorry, I'm a little bit Linux centric, you should be learning Bash, but in addition, you should be learning a little bit about grep and regular expressions, which is practically a religion, and sed and awk. And you don't have to be experts, but there's some really useful tools in here. And it's really about developing these ways of thinking, like Troy in the example with his daughter. She is probably picking up just a measurable value from this, just from getting that exposure. So get exposure to it yourself before you're having to do it on the job. Yeah.
And be able to talk about it too, right? That's important. Anything you want to add to that one, Troy, before I move on to numero 6?
Yeah, I just want to say that, in my personal opinion, Gary, correct me here if I'm wrong, but personal opinion, I think Python is the perfect language for somebody in security.
Yeah.
If you're going to learn something new or expand on something new, Python is so extensible to the automations that we need in the SOC and that we need in what we do on a daily basis. So I think if you were going to say, what should I do? Python would be my first top choice.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. It is versatile, but you're also going to get a lot of support for it. So if you don't know how to do something, you can ask somebody else and they're not going to look at you like you have two heads. It's like, okay, boomer, why are you still rocking your Perl skills that are completely out of date?
Because my Cobalt ones are out of date.
Oh, ouch. I thought this was a family show. You're throwing around 4-letter words.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So number 6, and we've already talked about this, so we're not going to spend too much time on it, is career or network. Like your career depends on it.
Because it does. Absolutely. I don't understand. Are there really people out there that don't get this, don't understand? What? That are just so focused on their screen and their IT gadgets and things that they can't understand that there's this ecosystem of people. And I'd like to still believe that the people are the ones doing the hiring still.
Yeah, I think the problem is people look at it as self-serving, right? In a false manner, where if I make friends with people that I work with, they're going to help me get promoted, right? Is probably what a lot of people think. You know, they do well for their coworkers, they help their people out internally, they kind of build a reputation internally, and then they move up. Problem is what happens if you can't move up, or what happens if there's not an opportunity to move up? You need to be able to have that same sort of exposure in other organizations, and the only way to get that is to get out and meet the people,
or even within your organization. I love what you said earlier. Do it before you need it. The facts are, I wouldn't be in my job without networking. I wouldn't be down working where I am right now. I wouldn't be in this chair right now if not for reaching out and building my network and knowing who to call and who can call on me. But if you don't want to be self-serving, then just be one of the folks that's like, hey, call me and I'll help you. Right?
Yeah, at least throw it out there. But if you're not available, you're not really getting much done. Or if you're not available to others.
I think this should be number one on the list. Honestly, networking is by far,
like that,
in a way, the number one way that we progress in this industry. And you know, there's multiple ways to advance your career, and I think moving up internally is one of those big ones. You know, when people see your passion in your work, internal promotion tends to be the easiest path for advancement. But when you hit that ceiling, or there's just a long period of time before your next opportunity internally, you need to have that external network. And I cannot underscore enough how much this is important to your career. And every city that I've been to, every major city, even more rural cities, have meetups and people who are getting together over a drink or breaking bread together. And they're talking about how to advance in the industry. So get out and meet those people. I think, as you said, Gary, my last 5 jobs have come through networking, people that I knew, people that put me in for the role. And that's how you get around these automated systems. You know, that's the only way to get around those automated systems, is to know somebody at that company who can walk your resume down the hallway to the hiring manager and bypass the AI HR person.
Yeah, I think there's 2 groups here, though, right? So those who are just getting into the career, and then those who are already there. And I'm just trying to put myself in the position of somebody, a new grad, and this idea of networking is probably scares the shit out of them, right? Like, that's not what they probably went into IT, engineering, computers, software, whatever, so that they wouldn't have to work with humans. But surprise, you do still have to work with them. But just know that at least in our field, you will be welcomed. Find Fern at one of the events and he'll make sure you get a warm welcome. No, like, try to put yourself in one of these new grads positions, and who is the idea of going to a meetup and not knowing anybody there is probably pretty daunting.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I would say, you know, look into your local Toastmasters group. And that might sound crazy to some people because it's about public speaking, but Toastmasters gets you comfortable in your own skin to talk extemporaneously in any conversation. Meaning
he's getting multiple. I'm not playing Scrabble with this guy.
But seriously, it's going to be able to prepare you to have a conversation with anybody, and it breaks down some of those walls that you're afraid to talk. And I think that's so important. Here's one other thing that you made me think of, Gary, is that customer service skills are so important. So if you think you're going to go into cybersecurity and not have to work with people, you're dead wrong. This is a people sport. And so make sure you have those customer service type of mentality in your mind. And here's a good example. My rock star at my last company, Fortune 500, my rock star in the SOC came from IT help desk. He was the person assigned to the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, white glove, helping him with every IT and cybersecurity need that the CEO and the admin staff, executive staff had. He was so good at customer service, and that propelled him into a very successful career in the SOC. People were just astounded by his follow-up, his demeanor, his empathy, all the stuff that he was able to show because he learned that in the CEO's office, and then he came to the security team. He was my most successful rock star in the SOC, and everybody else on the SOC would tell you the same thing. This guy was amazing. I do miss him, but just again, remember, customer service is the name of the game. Also, as you go through this cyber career,
something really quickly that you touched on, though. Let's just face it. Historically, where do the cyber professionals come from? Too many years on a help desk, right? Emphasis on the too many years, right? You've seen everything. You've seen everything a human can possibly do.
Wrong.
Good. Well, see, I was going to focus on that, good or bad, and that positions you well. But historically, that was the thing we all share in common.
Yeah. Or the other side of it is help desk is under siege right now by a lot of threat actors, right? So
it's true. How many calls do you have to make? Historically, we found it's 8 to 10 calls. 8 to 10 calls, and with a sob story, you can get them to reset a password for, right?
So you're essentially on the front lines without even realizing if you're on the help desk, right? I just want to take a second to go back. Extemporaneous. I actually had to look this one up because I've never heard that word. Extemporaneous. Spoken or done without preparation. And that's exactly what this podcast is. we just show up, right? I mean, Gary, we sat down and Troy goes, so what are we talking about today? So right here's the list. Most people don't know that though. So we're going to leave that in as a nugget for people. So yes, network like your career depends on it. Because it does.
Oh, wait, one more. Like, what does that look like for somebody? So we know the events, we know go to the meetups, but use the platforms as well. Things like LinkedIn is the one we keep picking on, right? So you don't actually have to know the person in order to reach out with a connection request. They suggest that you should, but maybe you want to get to know them or you want to follow them, which is another way to do it, and see what they're doing, and then respond to their posts, right? Contribute again to the online community. So I just want to make sure we leave people actionable things, because it's true they'll limit the number of connections, but it's something like 100 or 200 per week. So that should be plenty for you to kind of build your own community on LinkedIn, and you can start your own group or participate in others. Yeah,
I will say I met a person at the local event. He went to go give me his card, and I recognized him. Oh, wait. I say, hey, you're the guy that has like the gray suit on LinkedIn, right? And he like pulls up his account. And he's like, oh yeah, that's me. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I've seen your name so many times. I've just never met you in person, right? And I've never zoomed in on his picture to see what his face looks like. So it's like, oh, obviously, oh yes, I see the similarity now, right? But I thought it was interesting because he's like, yeah, like I'm on LinkedIn all the time, but I've seen him on my stuff. I've seen him on other stuff. But he was like, oh, you're that guy, right? And I wasn't like, oh, you're that guy. So like two people that have interacted multiple times online, whether saying hi or like leaving comments and things like that, still couldn't pick him out of a crowd. So it helps build like a foundation by doing it online. And then if you ever happen to meet in person, it's like, oh, hey, like we already kind of know each other, right? So we talked about a bunch of things for like 20, 30 minutes. And it was a lot less awkward than a random person just saying, hey, like, so what's your name? Right. Definitely LinkedIn first. And if you're going to leave comments, just don't leave AI comments. That's the worst.
And Fern, I would say, digital age with all these M dashes. Sorry, Troy.
Yeah.
No. I was just going to say that, as much as I talk about ChatGPT, here's something that you can do is take a link to your LinkedIn, paste it into ChatGPT, ask it how to optimize it, right? It's going to give you some pointers.
Smart.
And say, I want to optimize this for a help desk person or a security operations person or a blue team, red team. Just tell it what you want to do and how you want to, frame it. It'll give you some good suggestions. You don't have to take all the suggestions or any of them, but at least it's going to be another set of eyes on there. And also ask people that that you've worked with to give you a recommendation on LinkedIn. The algorithm prioritizes people who have a more robust profile. And if you can have somebody who actually knows you write a short little recommendation for you on LinkedIn, it's going to go a long way to not only getting you more exposure, but to show that you legitimately are who you say you are.
Oh, there you go. Troy, can you hook me up? I need I need some recommendations. No, a cool project for somebody to do at home, because you keep mentioning ChatGPT, is build your own LLM. You're going to need a little bit of CPU or GPU power for this one. So you could do it with a Raspberry Pi, add a GPU and some disk on that, follow the steps online, and then you've got your own private LLM locally. Right? It's not sharing information. So that'd be a good project to, and then show other people how to do it. Right? I think it was Tim Toole who did this online. Very cool.
Hey, Ben, we talked about something similar to that, buying a Raspberry Pi with storage on an episode right before Christmas on what to get people in or looking to get into cyber or already in cyber. So another tapped on that again. I'm just going to go ahead and second the recommendation part, right, Troy? So
yeah, you got it.
Let me know. Just say nothing but the good stuff. So I think that's good on that topic. So it's networking, right? And that networking can lead to referrals, right? It can lead to someone helping you get in front of their hiring manager. You can't just hit up a stranger and say, hey, send me to your boss, or hey, can you get this to someone that you know if they don't know you, right? Like if someone called me and said, hey, can you help me get a job at this place? And I don't even know who they are. I'm like,
yeah. I was going to say, don't make the first time you're reaching out to somebody when you've got an ask for them.
Yeah, exactly. You can't go to the bank and withdraw money if you haven't deposited. Just keep that in mind, people. So second to last, 7, right? Read a non-cyber book. At least once a year, maybe a few times. And if you need a good recommendation, read the Phoenix Project, right? So that one, I don't know if you've read it, Gary, but it's been like 5 or 6 years. But it essentially follows a person in a business as they're working on different things. And it gives you perspective of different business units and how they work together. And the things that they think about, like the considerations they have to make, whether it's for a purchase or a project, timelines. Essentially, it gets you out of your own shell, or it gets you out of your own silo if you're in cyber already. And it helps you think about what other people's goals and incentives are, because a lot of times that's how people operate, right? Forget who said the phrase, but if you show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome, right? And it's very true in a lot of ways. But in this case, if you understand why other people are at the table to eat or what they're eating, metaphorically, you know what to serve, right? Yeah. And if you sit there and think, well, why are we here? You have to help other people get to where they want to be in order for them to be willing to help you get to where you want to be.
Yeah, totally agree. Last book I read was Above the Line. And I think that was the second time I just read it more recently again. Lots and lots of leadership lessons and all of the other soft skill type things that we've been talking about here that you are critical to your career moving forward.
Above the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would also make a book recommendation here, non-cyber, but kind of adjacent, which is The Cuckoo's Egg. It's a true story about a professor at Berkeley back in the 60s and 70s who ended up catching hackers that were selling Department of Defense information to Russia over a 25-cent accounting error that he noticed. And, most people would have just ignored that or moved on, but he thought it was odd and he chased it all the way down to find a hack at Berkeley National Lab.
I'm telling you, that's how this stuff is found. That doesn't look right. Troy, right? Like this is how something doesn't look right here. And then you start following up on it. Many other people would just look the other way or move on. But it's the folks that are curious, to use the word from earlier, that follow up on this thing, and they're like, oh no, this definitely is not right.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's a true crime section. And, if you ever watch true crime stories or read true crime books, there's also true cyber stories. So instead of fiction, and the Cuckoo's Egg is absolutely true, look for that true crime cyber type book that can give you both something that's not work related, not learning, but you're actually hearing about stories in the industry that kind of give you ideas that you might look for in your own job.
Yeah. And that kind of ties back to number 4, right? That we talked about earlier, which was do a hunt. Right. Mm-hmm. So very good example on how I forget the person that found the quarter error, like 25% error, but they essentially saw something that wasn't right and went on the hunt. So really an example of how that led to larger, we'll say implications of what was actually going on versus just, it's a 25% error. Right. So I guess now we're kind of seeing how, as we're getting towards the end of the list, how other parts that we've already talked about now integrate or tie into, or maybe say converge across one another, right? So I think that's pretty interesting. But then also, like with all these books, what it also does is it gives you, what do they say? Diversity in thought. Right? Because a lot of times you don't necessarily want to work in an organization where everyone's just a yes man or yes person, where everyone says the same thing.
It's groupthink. Yeah, that's right. You want to have, as you said, diversity. That's what makes a bigger, better, and stronger team.
Yeah. And if you're not coming from the help desk or you're not coming from a networking team, right, you may not have that exposure. So by reading these different books, what you actually get is someone else's thoughts written down and their experiences and their exposure. And you're now kind of absorbing it, right? And taking that as a new perspective that you bring to the table. Because if all you ever cared about was how you thought, right, then how would you ever be able to understand someone else's perspective, right? And that's a huge problem in the world, right? People have different views on certain things and they fight over that. But if they took time to understand one another, they might realize that there's more common ground than not. And I think that's kind of where this is getting at, is by reading more things and understanding more people better, you help yourself put yourself in a situation where you can now become an asset to the team because you bring more than just a siloed vision.
Yeah, but it's really, what all these things share in common is lift a finger, right? Show some initiative, get involved, get engaged, and invest in yourself. Nobody cares about your career. I hate to break it to anybody. Nobody cares about your career as much as you do. So if you're expecting somebody else to do this for you, then just stop listening now.
Well, we're almost done. So if you want to shut it off, you can. So that was number 7. And I guess since like I said, we're shutting it down here, is number 8, the last and final, which is we've already talked about, is teach something publicly, right? Because what's better? Or what's the phrase that they say? No one knows you're a fool until you speak. Right. And
then you remove all doubt.
Yeah.
That's it.
But here's the other thing, is no one knows how much you have to offer if you've never spoken. Right.
My version of this is I usually say, look, you can have Albert Einstein level intelligence, but if you can't communicate it, nobody will ever know. Congrats. It's a secret. You've got to have those communication skills. And it's precisely why when I was teaching university and I just wanted to, put some fear into the graduate students, that I made them do a presentation on things, because it's hard to fake that when you're up there and you're speaking on a particular topic, right?
Yeah. Or that goes back to like what Troy said with Toastmasters. You may not be teaching anyone something specific, but you're getting better at public speaking. And as I think of the very first one, you said get on stage, right?
Yeah. And you correctly said, like, that doesn't mean it has to be a physical stage. And also I wanted to emphasize something that Troy was saying, and I think it's really important to understand, is that Toastmasters isn't just about public speaking. There's a lot more to offer there.
Yeah, you get the little bell when you say the
ums and the ah counter. That's so important.
Yeah, what I notice whenever I do a lot of the editing for our episodes, as I say that a lot, but I don't realize that I'm doing it. So, like, I just wanted to say right now, but I mentally didn't do it. So it's interesting because a lot of times people do things that they don't realize. And when you put yourself out there publicly, right, whether it's through a podcast or doing a podcast, like obviously Gary, for you coming in today, when you probably watch it back, you might pick up on some things that you've done that you just weren't aware of.
Mm-hmm. Right?
And what that allows you to do is to kind of make this incremental improvement because you've taken the time to put yourself out there. So a lot of times people are worried what they're going to look like, or they're going to be made fun of, or they're going to be called a fool. And it's like, well, guess what? Whenever I need something, and not me specifically, but like whenever I need something, I have people that know who I am, right? And I become better over time by seeing where I am lacking, because most of the times people aren't going to call you out, right?
But also we were all there at some point, right? Yeah. Entering into the talk or the video or something like that, and experiencing some nervousness. And so that's why one of the things I like to do with people who they want to do it, but they're worried about how it'll turn out, is I want to de-risk it for them so I can co-present with them, right? Maybe do the Q&A for them. I think there's a few different ways you can do it. And that's what I want to see out of things like the career track at CactusCon, is I want to see people have an opportunity to experience some of these things where they wouldn't be able to otherwise.
Yeah. And well, I'll mention one point, because I think the first time I met you, Gary, was probably maybe like a year ago, maybe like 6 months ago. I don't know. I just remember where I was at when we had a phone call, and I was in my car, right? And we were talking, and you had mentioned you're going to get out there because you've been in town for a little bit, but you don't get out very often. And you say, I'm going to get out. I'm going to make myself known. I'm going to get out and meet people, right? And before that phone call, I don't remember ever seeing you anywhere, right? And you started going. And I think the first time I met you was last March at the Elevate, right? I think you were there. We kind of crossed paths, and you were in one of the meetings, and I was at the door snapping pictures, and we talked in the hallway, and that was that, right? And then within a few months, I would say 5 to 6 months, you were presenting on an actual stage, right? And I think it was at one of these conferences, maybe it was ISACA or something, ISACA. But before that, let me ask you, had you presented anywhere in Arizona publicly?
Very few. I was focused internally in helping out customers, but with the organization and with the role of CISO, everybody knows there's kind of an external and an internal component of it, which is what makes the job most challenging. So I did want to make myself better known in Arizona. My last gig was running security at the BC government in Canada for 10 years. God knows. Everybody knows me in BC. Big shout out to whoever is listening from BC. I'm going to try to link you guys in here so you can listen to my enviable style, and I miss you. But down in Arizona, nobody's missing me because nobody knows me. But it is a great community here. There's the usual suspects who always say yes and are willing to come out or refer you for things. And because of that, several times recently, the same person has referred me for speaking engagements and things like that. So it's just hammering home what we've discussed through this whole episode here, where once you make your intentions known and people know who you are and what you're about, then they're more willing to refer you for things. So ISSA will be my next speaking engagement.
Okay. But I think a lot of times people, if they can't teach, like we said that earlier, right? But a lot of people don't actually do what they say, or they tell other people to do. So what I was mostly just pointing out was the fact that at one time when you moved here, you had talked about how you wanted to get there more often, and you started doing that. And then you started presenting, and then you're speaking. Now you're on the podcast, but it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't reached out to me, because you reached out to me directly, right? And I think that's a really good example of how reaching out can turn into other things. Not to say that you're here because of those speaking engagements, but by putting yourself out there, you got those engagements, right? So when Damian got sick and we're thinking, well, who do we bring in? You know who the first person he thought of was? I
love that. And thank you very much for the opportunity. You guys do an awesome product here.
So I think it just goes to show that not only are we collectively saying to do these things, I think we're also doing them. I know Troy's got a dinner coming up this week in New York. Right. So he's presenting. I know Shannon's presenting at something. Shannon is his wife, by the way. She's presenting at another event. Right. So people are getting out there. They're making their names known. They're building their personal brands.
2 buckets, man. I got 2 buckets in my life. You either get things done or you don't. So there's folks that just want to sit there and talk about it, and those who get out there and do.
Yeah. So get out there and do. And if you're not presenting, at least you can be there
Supporting the people that are.
Yeah. Just walk up and say, hey.
Or to quote Yoda, do or do not, there is no try.
Yeah.
That's your 2 buckets, Gary. I like that.
Yeah. Or Nike. Right. Just do it.
Yep.
Do it. Try. No, you didn't. Like, right. It's so I think that covers the list. I've closed the laptop. We've covered all 8 things. And hopefully it was valuable. I'm sure it was. At least if there's at least one nugget in there, right? If we can't get one nugget out of this entire episode, we might as well just pack up. But now, typically, I just like to go around and ask, like, we'll go with Troy first. Is there anything that maybe we didn't cover that you thought should have been on the list?
Yeah, no, I think this is a great list. And like I said, I think networking and putting yourself out there should be top of that list. Go out there and expand your horizons. Don't be afraid of people. This industry is very welcoming, and you will find friends, and you will find people that will help you along your career path. So just get out there and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you to the younger crew who are coming on to take up the mantle of this mission. We really appreciate what you're doing, what you're investing. And I think that through this AI boom and all we're seeing other jobs being impacted, cybersecurity continues to be that one role that's going to be needed no matter what happens with AI. So keep doing what you're doing. There's a lot of work out there to be done. And, let me know if I can help.
Nice. Gary, it's on you.
Well, I don't want to disappoint. While we were talking, I was thinking about one thing.
All right.
Do yourself a favor. Michael Manrod and the folks at GCU are opening up the next cohort for TISU. You can look this up. Add him on LinkedIn, the Threat Intelligence Support Unit. This is where they offer for free a cybersecurity course over a number of weeks and months with an exam at the end. And what's different about this, starting the last cohort, is they made it available online. So now you don't have an excuse. You can do this from the comfort of your own home.
In your pajamas.
Yeah. And your tea, because that's one of the requirements. Michael Manrod, big believer in the power of tea. Do yourself a favor. Don't just talk about this. Don't delay. Don't wait until it's 2 or 3 weeks in, because then you're going to have to wait for the next cohort. Go in there. I read the other day that it's already open for signing up next time. I did it. I went through the whole semester last time. I'm going to do it again. It was really, really well done. It's not just Michael Manrod. He has a whole team of people that volunteer and make this thing happen. And it's just a testament to what we've talked about this entire session about the commitment of the cybersecurity folks, the professionals in here. We have this desire to give back, and Troy might be onto something on the why. I've never really questioned it. I've just thought it's very interesting that this industry will help people who are new.
Yeah, I think they're always looking out for each other, just like when you think about the military. And if the question is why, it's because I know that they would have done it for me. Right.
Love that.
So I don't really have anything to add. I think the list was pretty extensive for someone that's not necessarily like hands-on keyboard in security. To me, it's a lot of actionable things that even I could do. So, maybe next year when we look back to what people can do in 2027, we'll check off the list on what we did during 2026. So I guess with that, we're all done. We'll check us out next week.